Some breaking news out of the New South Wales Parliament is that the moves to decriminalise abortion have now passed the upper house. It has passed with 26-14 as the overall vote. There were some substantive amendments from what happened in the lower house, including most notably the gender selection restrictions that mean you're not going to be able to have an abortion in New South Wales if the reason you want to do so is because you don't like the gender of the kid. That means that it doesn't become law. It has to go back to the lower house, and as early as tomorrow morning, debates start about all of that again. Here we go. The process rolls on. Do you think that the upper house has done its job in this, Campbell Newman, to clip some things and change things as they go? And do you believe that the very people, including Gladys Berejiklian, who voted against amendments like those that have passed in the upper house, most notably the gender selection stuff, is going to vote against what she thought just a month ago?
Well, look, from what you've just stated, it does sound like they've done some heavy lifting here, and quite appropriately so. I think that's what the balanced view of the community would be in the issue. So it throws back in the lap of the lower house, and the Premier's got the hot potato again. I hope that they all listen to this, because it's been a bad episode for the New South Wales coalition government. And, I still pinch myself, not going over old ground, but I still pinch myself this is happening. And I note as well that there's some real issues in the National Party on this, in terms of the rank and file. If you'd told me even 5 years ago that New South Wales national MPs and state parliament would be right in the middle of this supporting it, I'd have said you were crazy. But they have, and I think they're going to wear it in the branches, the rank and file across the state. Well,
that's what's worth talking about. I know that John Barilaro was just on with Alan Jones, but piece today in the Channel 9 paper suggests that there is people that are handing in their badge as members of the National Party, because essentially the National Party acted, well, like a branch of the Greens, frankly, in the way that they debated, the way that they cut debate short, the way that they cut off inquiries, all the rest of that in the upper house. Now, this follows the historical problem for the National Party is that a couple of years ago, National Party MPs were the ones who voted to ban greyhound racing in New South Wales. There's also an existential problem for the National Party in New South Wales where, at the last state election, they lost seats to Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party. Why? Because in Orange and in the far west of the state, and as well across just towards the north too, water mattered. The Murray-Darling Basin plan and the problems with all of that from the New South Wales end, Rex, you get to defend South Australia in a second here, but that has meant that rather than sidling up with that party that has 3 votes in the lower house, instead the government went cap in hand to this lefty inner city MP, and what they've actually done is started to, highlight some of the cultural problems there might be between the people who sit in the parliament versus the people who, frankly, out of habit, may keep voting for them. Nicholas, that is, to me, one of the fascinating sidebars here, because, look, we've all debated abortion and decriminalisation for far too long. We all know where we sit on that. But I'm fascinated about what the consequences are for the Nats, because people in March, they voted pretty hard in some areas that, frankly, the Nats always had in their safe little column.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. I mean, just on the abortion law reform, there's that reminds me of that old saying about there's 2 things you never want to see being made: sausages and laws. And I think this abortion law has been a pretty unsavoury little sausage, shall I say. And if I was giving Gladys Berejiklian political advice, I'd say just accept the amendments tomorrow morning, get it through the parliament, get it off your agenda as quickly as possible, and get back to, making the trains run on time and educating kids in schools and helping sick people in hospitals, because they just need to move on now. As for the Nats, look, I take a bit of a different view to Cam and Barnaby and others on this. I mean, I think it's a bit of a case of a generational thing going on here in the National Party. So a lot of the old guard, the old boys, they still are real strong social conservatives. But I think most younger folks living in country areas, you find that they're, common sense people, and they're pretty progressive on a lot of things. I think we saw that in the marriage equality debate, where I think it was out of 15 Liberal National Party seats in the federal parliament, 14 or 15 out of 16 voted yes for marriage equality. Yet the federal MPs, the senior representatives, they had a different view to their constituents. And I think you're seeing it again here on abortion. So you've got Barnaby weighing in, and in the words of some of the New South Wales Nats, meddling in state affairs, whereas the actual Nats on the ground, a bit younger, representing their local community, regional communities in New South Wales, they say, we want to get the law on abortion changed. We want New South Wales to move forward on this. So I think there's a disconnect between the old guard and the Nats and what's actually the views in regional communities out there.
No, and that's fair to a point, but I think that we shouldn't ever overlap automatically that same-sex marriage postal survey with how woke a community is and about what their priorities are. Don't forget the seat of Dawson in the north of Queensland, the seat of Herbert in the middle of Queensland, and the seat of Ford. They all voted for it, but then they also returned Liberal MPs, strong pro-coal, all the rest of it. So it's not always automatically the case that one issue defines everything. I think people can tell the difference.
And I agree with that. I was making a point about social issues.
Well, even on social issues, I think people that have a very...
even on social issues, yeah.
Yeah, that have very different issues there.